Okay, lesson 12. So I told you in the last notes that I would show you how to solve right triangles to find the sides and then also the angles. And so lesson 12 is when we find the missing angles. So it's going to be really similar to finding sides. Really similar. It does tend to be more difficult for people, but so I'll show you. And I kind of wrote down the directions this time a little bit. So remember that inverses undo each other. They cancel. So like the opposite or inverse of a square root is squaring. The inverse of adding is subtracting. So they cancel each other out or undo each other. And so with trig, to undo a trig function, you use the inverse. So on your calculator, you have the cosine button, right? But then, I'm trying to find mine even. It's probably right up above it. Like most calculators, you hit shift and you'll see a cosine with a little -1 as an exponent. That's the inverse. So the inverse cosine cancels out a cosine in an equation. And then the inverse of sine, would be sine with the little -1. And same thing for tangent, the inverse tangent. So they undo that function. So we're going to set up a trig ratio just like we did before using two sides, except this time we're going to know both of the sides and we'll have a variable for the angle. In the last lesson, we had a number for the angle and then a variable in a side. This time we're going to have a variable as a side. So we're going to set up the trig ratio using the two sides that we have and the angle that we're trying to find. And then we're going to solve the equation for the angle by using the inverse. So here's our angle that we're trying to find. Find W. W is right here. We're going to label the two sides just like we did in the previous lesson. So this side is the adjacent, 10 is the hypotenuse. So which of the main three, remember we're not using the other three, which of the main three functions uses the adjacent and the hypotenuse? That is cosine. So cosine of the angle, last lesson we had a number to put in here. This time we don't know the angle, so it's cosine of W equals 8/10. I'm going to leave a little space here. 8/10, adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're trying to isolate W. We need to get rid of the cosine. To get rid of the cosine, we use the inverse cosine. They undo each other, cancel each other out, and then I would be left with just the W. But whatever I do to one side of an equation, I have to balance by doing to the other side. So if I do inverse cosine here, then I have to balance it by also doing inverse cosine of the other side. Don't put it at the end. That doesn't make sense. But it needs to go in front. So the rest of this is calculator work. Put parentheses around the 8/10. So your calculator will probably it might put in the left one for you. And then you would do 8 divided by 10. Be sure to close your parentheses. Also, it'd be good, as just like we did in the last one, to check, right? Like check this, use your calculator, make sure you get the same thing as me. It doesn't tell us what to round to, so we're going to round to the nearest degree, which would be 37 degrees. So angle W is 37 degrees. So really similar to the other one. Find angle X. So here's our X. Label our sides. 12 is adjacent and 9 is opposite. So which of the functions, we need to identify the function and set up an equation. The function that uses opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent of X is equal to, I'm going to leave a space and then write my fraction. Opposite is 9 over adjacent is 12. I'm trying to isolate X. I'm trying to get X by itself. So I need to get rid of the tangent. To get rid of a tangent, I use its inverse, which is the -1. And if I do it on one side of an equation, I have to do it on the other to keep it equal. So tangent and inverse tangent, they're inverses, they undo each other, so I'm just left with x equals, and then this side is calculator work. So second tangent gets me the little inverse, 9 divided by 12. Make sure to close your parentheses. I got 37 again. Here you go. You should pause me. Pause me and try one. Okay, to try it, here's my angle is y, 4 is opposite, 7 is hypotenuse, opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So sine of the angle is y, equals opposite is 4, hypotenuse is 7. If we're trying to solve for y, I want to get rid of sine. So to get rid of sine, you use its inverse. So those are going to undo each other, and I'll left with just y equals. If I did inverse sine on one side, then I have to balance my equation by also doing inverse sine on the other side. So inverse sine, 4 divided by 7 is 35 degrees this time. And the last one is a word problem, and I didn't draw it for you this time. See how you do setting it up. You'd be wise to pause me and try to set it up on your own, because for so many people, this is the toughest part, is to draw the picture, get everything labeled correctly, figure out what it is you're actually trying to solve for, what you actually want to find. Okay, a nursery plants a new tree. There's my tree. Trees go straight up and down, so that's going to be a vertical side. And attaches a guy wire to help support the tree while its roots take hold. An 8-foot wire. Okay, so many people are like, what the heck is a guy wire? I don't know. Okay, I mean, I do, but an 8-foot wire is attached to the tree. Okay, so boom, it's attached to the tree and to a stake in the ground, right? So it's going to be attached. Here's the ground. Here's the ground. The wire is going to be attached somewhere to a stake in the ground, maybe right there. And it says that an 8-foot wire, this is the wire, so that is 8 feet. The angle of elevation. So elevation means up, means from horizontal up. The angle of elevation with the connection with the tree is 42 degrees. From the stake, the angle of elevation is 42 degrees. Here's the stake, so the angle up is 42. That means it's this angle right here is 42. What are we trying to find? We are trying to find the height of the connection point on the tree. So this point right here, we're trying to find. That is x. How'd your drawing turn out? Did you do it okay? Did you get everything labeled in the right spot? If not, do you see why now? Does it, hopefully it makes more sense? I know this part is tough for a lot of people. I didn't even give you guys is a terrible example. I mean, it's not. It's a good example. It's just this would have been a better example for the last lesson. 42 is right here. X is the opposite. 8 is the hypotenuse. Don't worry, in delta you have some problems where you have to solve for an angle. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. What's my angle? This time we know the angle. The rest of these we've been trying to solve it, but we know it's 42 degrees equals opposite is x divided by hypotenuse is 8. And to solve that, we're going to multiply both sides by 8. So 8 divided by 8 is 1. We get 1x. Oops, 1x. And then 8 times sine of 42. Also on Desmos, you have some where we're finding angles. To the nearest foot, so 5 feet. So it's going to reach 5 feet up the tree.